you should know this about me. I don't put up with bullies. And when you kick back, it hurts them more if you're wearing heels. I'm Nikki Haley, and I'm running for president.
There it is, former South Carolina governor and U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, launching a campaign announcing a 2024 run for the White House. She has an announcement in Charleston, South Carolina today. Nikki Haley and former President Donald Trump are so far the only two Republicans to formally announce a run. But rumors are circulating of other potential candidates out there. Vivek Ramaswamy is an entrepreneur and author of Woke Inc. He joins us live. Vivek, good to see you. Thank you so much for coming on. Before I get to some of the rumors about potentially your decisions, what is your take on Haley's announcement?
So look, whoever gets into this race, and I wish her well, I think this race ought to be less about the who and more about the what and the why. What do we stand for as a conservative movement? What do we stand for as Americans, and why do we stand for it? I think in some ways, the Republican Party sometimes gets too wrapped up in this question of the who, the biographical question, when in fact we need to be focusing on the agenda. And I actually see an opportunity here. The opportunity I see is there's a missing American national identity right now. You ask people my age, really any age, what does it mean to be an American today? You get a blank stare in response. And I'd like to see the GOP step up and deliver an answer to that question that dilutes the woke agenda to irrelevance. And I know, myself, I've been complaining about it a lot for the last few years, identifying the problem. And there's a role for that. But now we need to ask, how do we move forward? And I think it's by creating this national identity of what it means to be an American, passing that on to the next generation, and then diluting these secular religions from transgenderism to climatism to irrelevance, and revive actually what it means to be American.
You talk to me about identity and identity politics, which is a real thing. She is of Indian descent, obviously a woman. Is this going to help her in her run? Your thoughts on that?
I'm going to be really honest with you. I could care less what race she is, what gender she is, and what race or gender any other candidate is. Because you know what? In America, you get ahead not on the color of your skin, as Martin Luther King said, but on the content of your character and contributions. And whether it's me or anybody else, that's how we should judge people. And in a presidential race, it ought to be on the content of your ideas, the quality of your vision, and whether or not you can execute on that vision. And I just think both parties, by the way, need to graduate from this identitarian philosophy that says your identity is wrapped up in the genetic characteristics you inherit on the day you're born. I reject that. I think your character is determined based on your vision, your commitments, and your ideals. And I think I'm kind of sick, to be really honest, of celebrating our diversity as our strength for the last 10 years. Our diversity is not our strength. Our strength is what unifies us across that diversity. That's personally what I care about, not whether or not you're a particular race or gender.
South Carolina Congressman Ralph Norman, top Trump ally, announcing his endorsement for Nikki Haley. We'll show you his tweet. He says, "This is probably no surprise for many of you. I'm thrilled to be in Charleston this morning to throw my support behind Nikki Haley for president in 2024. We are at a pivotal point in our nation. While the Republican candidates' values and messages have done very well here in South Carolina, that hasn't been the case everywhere across our great nation. It's time for a reset and a new chapter in national Republican politics, and there's no better person to help write that new chapter than our former governor and my good friend Nikki Haley." But that has been something that was in her campaign video, essentially a new generation of leaders, specifically within the Republican Party. She notes 6 out of 7 losses of Republican tickets, and there it is right there on your screen. Talk to me about that. Is that something that you do agree with, a new generation of leadership?
Look, I always think a new generation of leadership is good in any country, but I think about that as a new generation of ideas. And the new generation of ideas we need is actually the ones that revive the ideals that set this nation into motion 250 years ago. I'm not a believer in casting implicit or explicit slurs against other Republicans. I think the apparent fissure within the Republican Party is really nothing more than a symptom of the fact that the party actually needs to define its agenda better. And so I think pointing fingers at individuals and blaming them, I don't think is the way to go. I think the right way to go is actually talk more about the ideas, talk less about the biography, talk less about the vertical pronoun, what any given person accomplished even electorally, and talk more about what are we going to do for the future. And I'll tell you something about this. Even I've learned a lot in the last couple of months about this whole process. I don't come from the world of politics. I come from the world of business, and I've written books and thought leadership. But one of the interesting learnings for me is this is a little bit of a managerially bureaucratized process where most people go hat in hand, ringing the tin can, asking donors for permission of whether or not to run, lining up establishment endorsements. I don't believe in playing that game. It's the people of this country who ultimately decide who leads this country, or at least it should be. And I think that's a big part of what at least the Republican Party can play a role in restoring too. Not just going through the motions, but actually doing the thing that a democracy is supposed to do, is leave the decisions to the people without sort of this top-down managerial intervention.
Well, the people have already put out rumors about Mike Pompeo, about Mike Pence, most notably Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, that they could announce a run. Some have said that you may be considering a 2024 run. Is there truth to that? Do you plan to run?
Yeah, I believe in being transparent, not playing coy. I'm giving it serious consideration is the answer to that. I've traveled a majority of the states of this country, actually, over the course of my 2 book tours. And I have been moved by the way in which people in this country are hungry for a vision of what those American values are that we need to revive. Merit, the idea you get ahead on your contributions rather than your skin color. Free speech, open debate, something we've long missed in this country. The best ideas win when no ideas are censored. Merit in who gets into this country. More people like my parents, less people whose first act of entering this country is a law-breaking one. And a basic wish that I have as a citizen, that the people who we elect to run the government are the people who actually ought to run the government rather than this cancerous federal managerial bureaucracy. And if we revive that American idea, then I think we can take on the biggest threats we faced. Top of the list is communist China on the global stage. That's going to require some sacrifice. But you can only make a sacrifice if you know what you are sacrificing for. And so to me, I care about the ideas.
Yeah.
I care about the reviving that vision of American national identity for this country. That doesn't belong to me. Nobody has a monopoly on this America First movement. No man, no woman. It's bigger than all of us. But the person who runs the country next needs to be a vehicle for advancing that agenda. And so, to answer your question directly, because I don't like hedging like a lot of these other politicians, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it seriously. I'm going to make a decision in the relative near term.
We'll look forward to that. Vivek Ramaswamy joining us live. Good to see you, Vivek. We appreciate it.
Thank you.